So, Kay, are you ready for tonight's show?
Hold up. Where were you yesterday?
Yeah, what do you mean yesterday?
I mean, I was sat here at 7 o'clock waiting for you in front of these curtains, and you never showed.
Well, yeah, oh yeah, sorry. I had an important meeting.
A meeting?
Yeah, a meeting
With who?
with a YouTube consultant.
A what?
A YouTube consultant.
What's a YouTube consultant?
Someone you consult about getting somewhere on YouTube. Obviously, duh.
Oh, come on, don't be rude. What? Is there really such a thing as a YouTube consultant?
Of course there fucking is. I was meeting with one yesterday.
Okay.
And anyway, look, I have some bad news.
What do you mean you have some bad news?
Yeah, I think we might have been shadow banned.
Shadow banned?
Yeah, shadow banned.
What does shadow ban mean?
Shadow banned is when YouTube decide, for usually political reasons, that you should not be promoted on YouTube. So they stop sharing your videos, and it stops being, people stop being able to find them and all that shit. And I think that's happened to us.
Why do you think that's happened to us? I don't think we're important enough for anyone to be bothered to do that.
Yeah, well, see, the evidence is in the stats, in the analytics.
Okay, so talk me through it.
Well, our first video, that got viewed nearly 100 times.
Yeah, why? Why did nearly 100 people watch our video?
Well, I don't know if it was 100 people. It might have been one person 100 times, but it was 100 views.
Okay, well, I still find that deeply puzzling. And yeah, so why do you think we've been shadow banned?
Well, ever since, all of our videos, they've only received about 10 or maybe 20 views.
Well, isn't that because when we first put out a video, people checked it out and then they thought that maybe that's not for us, and so they're just not watching us?
Now, I don't think they'd do that. If they watched it, they'd definitely watch the next episode. That's how it works.
I don't think that is how it works.
No, but yeah. See, when you're shadow banned, you don't know you're banned. That's why it's called shadow banned. So we just don't know.
Well, I think it's very unlikely. I don't think anybody cares enough about what we do to complain about us or to shadow ban us. Yeah, so I mean, anyway, what are you going to do about it?
Well, I'm going to choose some slightly less contentious subjects. And also, I'm going to stick to stuff you know about, so you're not talking shit anymore.
What do you mean talking shit?
Well, that last one on Israel, I mean, it was clear you don't know fuck all about Israel.
I never claimed to, though.
Well, yeah. So tonight we've got an episode which I think you will know something about.
Okay, so what are we doing tonight?
Okay, let me introduce it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Cedric and K review middle-aged white men.
What? What?
Middle-aged white men. I thought that's a perfect subject, you see, because you are a middle-aged white man, so you know all about that shit, So this time you'll actually be talking from, an informed perspective, so to speak. I mean, as much as you ever are informed.
Okay.
And then you see me, I'm not a middle-aged white man. I'm a frisky young black rabbit.
Look, I don't think you are. I really don't think you are.
Well, I'll just leave it at that because I've got my fans and they don't know quite how old I am, and they don't know that I dye my fur.
Okay.
So keep that between us. Yeah, just that's our secret.
Okay. I get you.
Anyway, so you're going to talk to us about all the positive, wonderful things about middle-aged white men. Off you go.
Okay, middle-aged white men. Right, we're not middle-aged white men. Well, I mean, middle-aged white men. First of all, that's a massive part of the population, and they do. I mean, they kind of run society, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Okay, so if they run society, I mean, for better or worse, mainly for worse, I would say. Look, it's my turn. Positive. I'm going to defend my kind. Okay, good luck. Okay, middle-aged white men. They built everything, haven't they? I mean, I would say, it is true that largely it wasn't women because women weren't allowed to. They weren't allowed to participate for a long time. But, I mean, middle-aged white men, they kind of run everything. They're the government, they're the chiefs of all the industries, except, there are a couple of women, but not many. Not as many as there should be, probably. So I'm going to say middle-aged white men, they're responsible for everything that's going on, pretty much. Everything that goes on today. See, that's the problem. Well, hold on. I haven't finished the good things. Okay, think about the arts. All the great art done by middle-aged white men. Think about the science that's done by middle-aged white men. Think about the entertainment. What else is there? The medicine, I suppose, part of science. I don't think middle-aged white men should even, they don't even have to be defended. I think, the main issue with middle-aged white men is that they don't let other people have a go enough. You done? Well, not quite. Well, please, hurry up. Okay, so overall, middle-aged white men, good thing. They've worked hard most of their lives. They're keeping society going, running the show. Could do with being a bit more inclusive of people who aren't middle-aged white men. I do accept that. Definitely an issue, but overall, I don't think you can really say much that's bad about them. And they're a large part of the population, and a lot of the men that aren't middle-aged white men will be middle-aged white men in a bit. So, they're an important thing. Okay, you done? Yeah, I'm done. Right, okay. So, my angle on middle-aged white men is everything you said is utter shite. What do you mean everything I said is utter shite? Every single fucking thing you said is utter shite. All those things should really be credited to much younger men or women. Middle-aged white men, they're the ones that just take the credit. That's what they do. Well, what do you mean? Okay, science. Yeah, it's well known. All the major scientific breakthroughs are done by men in their 20s and more recently, women in their 20s. Because that's when they have inspiring ideas. That's when they're not set in their fucking ways. And then they spend the rest of their lives like honing the little bits of details and getting stuck and all of that shit. I don't think that's true. It really is true. All the great scientific breakthroughs, all done by men in their 20s, at latest early 30s. Okay, what about art? Yeah, what about art? Again, you name me some artists who did some great things in their mid-ages when they were white. In their mid-ages when they were white. Yeah, I tripped over my words there. Okay. Beethoven. I mean, all of his greatest works were done when he was middle-aged. That is indeed true. But he's the only fucking one. What do you mean he's the only fucking one? Well, most of the others, like composers, let's talk classical composers to start with, almost all of them die before they're in their middle ages. All the great ones. And then those that survive, they start writing really boring stuff. They're just kind of, self-satisfied. Oh, look, this is what I've worked out. I'm now going to keep doing it and make it bigger and bigger, but not develop or anything like that anymore. Well, no, that's not true, though, because a lot of those composers that did make it through their middle ages went on to write really fantastic last works. Yeah, their last fucking works, once they stopped being middle-aged and realised they're about to die. All the rest, boring as shit. I don't think that's fair. But it's definitely true that most of them don't make it. Not most of them. Well, the real greats, the proper stuff. Well, maybe. So, science, young men. Arts, young men or old men who are past middle age. What else you got? Putting into society. Yeah, well, do I even need to answer that?
Women, they're totally involved in society all their lives. They put in society. Middle-aged men, they basically sit on their laurels, resting away in their world of entitlement, however, wherever they've landed. By the time they're in their mid-40s, they're pretty settled. They just get more and more bigoted and up their own arses, and and just enjoy the privilege of the position they've managed to rise to. They don't put anything back. I don't think that's fair. Well, they don't put much back. Well, who of your friends put anything back? My friends. My friends. Yeah, okay. Oh, that was a pointed question. I'll rephrase that. Does your friend put anything back? You know, your friend, Matt the Hat, who just talks about himself all the fucking time and complains about Islamists and women and stuff. No, he doesn't put anything back. No. Yeah, but he's not a fair example. Yeah, but he's the only man you know, so, you know. Well, yeah. But, you know, I've known lots of men, you see, because I've had a life. Long before I knew you, I had a fucking life. And I can tell you, middle-aged white men are just, they're just full of entitlement and bigotry and bile and bitterness and resentment and all that shit. And they're just a waste of time. Let me ask you something. No, hold on. I'm not going. No, let me ask you something. No, wait. Let's go back. So you're telling me that no middle-aged white men have ever done any good except Beethoven? Pretty much. Okay, look. Let me ask you something. Okay, you obviously want to ask me something. Yeah, okay, let's say all men were to die when they were 40, you know, going back in time. Because that's about the age they were supposed to die, you know, before we started living longer. Well, I don't know if that's true, but okay. So if every man died when they were 40, what would we actually be missing in today's society? What would be missing? Yeah, sure, the late works of Beethoven. That's quite a big thing. Yeah, and Paul McCartney's sort of middle period independent stuff. Nobody would miss that. All the Rolling Stones stuff from the 80s and 90s. Nobody would miss that. Well, I mean, yeah, if you're talking about that, yeah, that's my point. You know, all the great stuff, it's all done by young men and now also women. But very few middle-aged white men because they're too busy sitting on laurels, you know, enjoying their position. Look, okay, I'm not gonna have that. I'm not gonna let it end there, because you know, we all know middle-aged white men have a big problem. You know, there's a big, massive mental health problem with middle-aged white men, and if we just say that, you know, we're just going to make people feel even more despairing. There must be positives. You want me to come up with positives? Yeah, I want you to come up with a few positives. Yeah, what can middle-aged white men do to make you feel that they're positive to society? Well, it's obvious. They need to put back in society. They need to stop being so isolated. They need to stop sitting on their own all the time, brooding and developing their bitterness into ever more bitter little pastels. They need to integrate into society more. Go back out there. Do voluntary work. You know, hang out with your mates. You know, get out. That's the problem. You know, you don't know what people are really like because you're too busy sitting on your pile of laurels. Oh, I don't think that's true. I don't have a pile of laurels. No, you don't. That's because you're not a failure. But most men your age do. And be honest, you're the least successful man I've ever met. I don't know that that's entirely true. I mean, I've met some who are less successful. Yeah, excluding the homeless people you give money to. Okay, well, excluding them, I don't really meet many people. Yeah, well, we both know that. Okay, so what you're saying is, let's end this on a positive. What you're saying is, middle-aged white men need to, just put a bit more effort into society as a whole, and just when they feel themselves getting a little bit bigoted or set in their ways, they must challenge that and not resent changes in society. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, I think that will make a big difference. If they can do that, I think they'll be happier and everyone else will be happier with them. Oh, that and stop fucking harassing sexually all those younger women, because that's not fucking on.
Why are you looking at me? I don't do that.
Yeah, you probably do, because it seems all the fucking middle-aged white men seem to be doing it.
Not all of them, only those in positions of power.
Okay, well, here's a thought. Why don't we stop giving middle-aged white men power?
I don't think we should have rules like that, but, I did say earlier we should integrate things a bit better.
Yeah, okay, well, anyway, I think we've solved middle-aged white men.
What do you mean? I don't like this solved thing at the end. I don't think we ever solve anything.
Yeah, well, it's, as I said, it's our catchphrase, so just fucking let me say it, okay?
Okay.
Right, yeah, I think we've solved middle-aged white men. What they need to do is get out more, hang out with their mates, do a bit of volunteering, understand what normal people are up to, talk to younger people, don't just talk to middle-aged white men. And just try and mix it up a bit, and then you'll feel a lot better. Okay, right, thanks. Right, well done. I think you did quite well. I mean, it was an easy subject for you, what with you being a middle-aged white man, but pretty good going, I'd say. Well done. I'll go and start thinking about tomorrow's episode then, and thanks for that. Let's hope this one does a bit better, because it is a bit contentious, but maybe it'll get us unbanned.
Okay. Right, well, thanks. I think that was a bit more than 10 minutes I gave you, but yeah, see you tomorrow.
Yeah, see you tomorrow. Okay, cheers, I'm off. Bye.
Okay, well, middle-aged white men. That was an interesting one. I don't think we solved anything, but I'm glad we managed to turn it around, because there was a while there where I thought it was going to be very negative, and we can't be having that. Because this is a happy channel. That was my intention. I don't know what Cedric wants to make of it. Anyway, see you tomorrow. Good night.